Now the next thing you want to do is take a look at a 1-4-5 blues. 1, 4, 5. Now blues is made up entirely of dominant chords, and I can just use diminished on every single one of them. Now before we do that, let's think about something. How many keys do we have total? 12. How many keys does one diminished scale cover? Well, A is the same as F sharp, is the same as C, is the same as E flat. So that's 4 out of the 12. It's a third. So it means that there are only 3 keys to play diminished in, and the rest of them are the same by transposition. So if I play A, and I know that F sharp and C have the same notes, it means that the other 2 keys are just the steps in each direction. Meaning B flat is the same as G, and B is the same as G sharp. That's very interesting. When I play a 1-4-5 blues, let's see what happens when I sort of drop these chords a third at a time to get to the area of the 1 chord. Here's my 4 chord, D. Well, that's the same as B7, and that's the same as G sharp. Oh shit. A is the 1 chord. G sharp 7 is just like the 4 chord diminished. Well, where's the 5 chord? E, let's take that down 3 frets. C sharp, another 3 frets. B flat. Wait a second. That's also G. So I can think about this a few ways. 1, a sub for 4 is just a half step down, meaning a dominant built on the 7th. A substitution for 5 is another half step down, a dominant chord built on the flatted 7th of the key. So 5, 4, 1. Another way to think about it, I can go 1, 4, and then a half step above the root, the flat 9. That's another substitution for that E7. It's a tritone away. Oh shit. Here's another way to think about it. 1, 4 is like the 2 dominant. 5 is like the flat 2, like we said. At the end of a blues, I have a 5, 4, 1, 5. Those are the last 4 measures of any blues. It's called a turnaround. Here's another way to think about it. 5, just off the root. 4. Now here's a substitution for 1, built off the sharp 9 of that 1 chord. Here's a substitution for 5, just chords descending down in whole steps from the 5th. If I attach a diminished scale to these shapes, it's pretty cool. Now let's look at it the other way. If I'm going from the 5 chord, up a half step, that's the same as the 4 chord transposed up. Up another half step, F sharp, that's my 1 chord. Up another half step, that's just like the 5 chord from the flat 9. So I have 5, 4, 1, 5. Or, but these patterns repeat in minor thirds, so this is another substitution for it. Instead of starting here, I can start here. And in any of the places. So this could be treated as something that's confusing or something that's really awesome to orient yourself around the blues. Let's hear some examples. Now I'm going to use this E-shaped A for my 1 chord, this E-shaped B for my 4 chord, and this E-shaped B flat for my 5 chord. things even simpler, I'm just gonna use one phrase as a motif. That's just gonna go 1, sharp 2, 3, and then 5, 6, flat 7. But I'm going to take it through those substitutions. So obviously this isn't something you want to use over every chord all the time. It's pretty tasteless to do it that way, but to practice and to visualize, you have to do it this way. So let's go through another option. For that 5, 4, 1, 5 at the end of the form, I'm going to show you a lick that starts here on the 5 chord. I'm going to go. Then here, on the 4 chord. Then the 1 chord, and then the 5 chord again, and then resolve it to just blues. Now check this out over the turnaround. So think about this. Everybody has 1, 4, 5 memorized. The trick here is to see how those 1, 4, and 5s behave in minor thirds. Meaning you want to memorize these mini chord progressions that represent the 1, 4, 5 and are the correct substitutions to where you can attach that diminished information to. The closer you are to the root, the easier it gets. But you could say, play a C7 in place of that A as your 1 chord. And then you can just memorize that relationship that the 1 chord had to the 4 and the 5. So you know that a half step down is going to be your 4 chord and a half step up is going to be your 5 chord, etc., etc. So let's say you start on F sharp. That's your 1 chord in A. You can memorize that a whole step up from there gives you some sort of sound that gives you that 4 chord tonality. A half step down from there is your 5 chord again. So it's all about your brain making those connections, but start with substitutions for the 1 chord and then remember the relationship it has to the 4 and 5 chords as you transpose them down. It could be overwhelming at first, but practice this with the strategy of playing that E-shaped chord, playing the scale, and constantly applying the right sounds over changes. This is overwhelming stuff, and you should definitely join our Patreon for at least $5 a month. You get tabs, notation, a ton of backlog. We covered a lot of great players, a lot of transcription, a lot of instructional material, so be sure to see us there. Subscribe, like this thing, leave a comment, and we'll see you next time.